Okay, today we will discussing about the state management in the Angular application. For that one, we will discussing about the popular library that is NgRx. So NgRx library is used to manage the state in the application, and it is inspired from the Redux, which is commonly used in a React application. Okay, before discussing about the Redux, let's discuss about the state management. What is the state management and why we need it? The The state is represent the data or the state of the application at the given time. So what it means in normal scenario, usually we get the data from the API and we are displaying into the front end application. But the data which we get from the API, we do not maintain or we do not store in a particular place. So so uh, So to manage those data, now we will be use the NgRx library to maintain those data. So why we need to maintain those data required? Because consider one scenario where you had to show particular data in different places using the same API. Then at that time you need to make multiple calls and all, or or probably there is a chance of inconsistency in the application because since you are not managing the particular data which is come from the API. So to handle those things, we should use the NGRX uh, store to store those data so that it will be stored in a central repository, and it will be fetched from the central data so that due to which it will be inconsistency will be avoided. Apart from that, one more advantage we get using the state management is that if you want to modify a particular data, you need to make the change only in one place instead of making the changes in all the places. So those are the major advantages we get when we work with the state management. Okay. So for that one, it used the Redux. So Redux is a predictable state container for the JavaScript application. It consists of a few elements like a store, action, reader, reducer, selector, effects. The store, as I mentioned earlier, like the store is the central repository where the all the data which we get from the API or from anywhere we are storing into the store. And action is actually it's a event uh, where you want to perform particular action. Reducer is actually are the pure function that are take the current state and as a action and then take the argument from the actions and make the changes and create a new state. Selector. Selector are like whatever the data is stored in in the central repository. Where if we want to get those data, then we have to use the selector. So in the selector, we need to mention like what kind of data you want to be fetched. You need to mention in the selector. Effect are the side effects. For example, effect are allow you to listen the action and perform the synchronous task in the response to those action. Means like if you whatever whatever the action is on occurred, if you want to perform on that action, if you want to invoke any other actions, then you can achieve using this effect. Yeah. Let's dive into the code. Okay, let's go through the code. So in this Angular application, I have installed NgRx store with the 19 version and NgRx effects with the 19 version. So in this application, what I have done is like I have created one store folder uh, just beside of the app folder, and in the app folder then we need to decide what kind of store we want. For example, in this application I want to display the information about the student and the student list. So for that one I will hit one API. So for that one I have created one model as a student which can hold student data, and one services to get all the student information, and another API I have created will be add student will actually insert one new record or insert a new student into the database. For that one I will hit the API. For the demonstration purpose I have just hard coded this value, but ideally this should be replaced with the API calls. Okay. Now moving to the main part, I have created one more folder as a state where the all the store related the files I have maintained in this folder. So let's open this one by one. The first is the student actions. So we need to decide what kind of operation we want to perform on the entity student. For example, as I mentioned earlier, like I want to add the student, as well as I want to get the list of the student. So, so that's the reason I have added add student and get students. So while adding the student, I have to pass the student detail. So that's the reason I am passing this object as student. And this object is concerned hold the student information. But when we when we hit the student API, there will be a two possibilities. One, the operation will be successful, or you might get error. If this operation is successful, at that time we are expecting some newly generated ID. So that's the reason I am passing this ID. And in case if you get any error while storing the student information, then we need to we need to uh, we need to provide the error message on the front end application. Similarly, when we hit the get API to get the list of students, and at that time we are not passing any information because we want all information of the all list of students. So that's the reason I'm passing as an empty props, which represents, which means that I don't want to pass any parameter, just the get the list of all students. So again, there is a two possibility when we hit the get student the API. The one possibility is to is the operation is successful, and another possibility is like getting the error. In case the operation is successful, at that time we will get the list of or the array of the students. So that's the reason I have used as a mention as a array of the student. Whereas if any error is occur at that time, whatever the error message come from the API that we want to show to the front end, that's the reason we have passing as a error as a string. So these are the possible operation or possible action now has to be performed in the on the student entity. Okay, these are the just example. You might require the many operations as per your need. Okay, let's move to the another file that is the student reducer. So as I mentioned earlier, like the reducer actually it's a simple function which provides a new state of the store. So what will be the initial store, the initial state of the student? Of course, it will be empty. So that's the reason we are passing as a empty. So the whatever the action we are performing, those action we had to add it into this reducer, because for every action there will be a new state. So for example, when we add the new student, there will be whatever the data we are passing that will be hold into this store. Similarly, in case if any error occur, so whatever the errors come from the API that we need to add into the store so that it will be displayed on the front end application. Again, it is the similar the kind of operation for the get students too. Okay, then move to the another file that is the selector. So whatever the data are stored into the store that we want to show in the front end, for that one we need a select operation. So that the reason we had to define this select. So selector actually it's provide the this selector will help to get the list of all the students using this student. Okay, moving to the student effect. As I mentioned earlier, like whenever you perform any action, like add student, there will be the two possibility. One possibility is the successful, another possibility is error. So on which operation, what kind of action we need to perform, that we had to define in this student effect. So, for example, consider as a get student or sorry add student. Now, while adding the student, there are the two possibilities. Those two possibilities, either the operation is if the operation is successful, then we will call the successful action. If the error, if any error is occurred, then we will call the uh, error actions. So similarly, this is for the get student. If this API is successfully hit, at that time we will make a invoke action of the get success get student success. And if the operation is not successful, then we will call the get and the student error. So what all kind of logic actually you need to write in this student effects only. So once we define all these things, then you need to provide these informations to the main store so that it will handle all the stores. So this is for the this is the main store file I have created here. Uh, where you need to define what kind of stores available here. So for example, one entity is we created for the student, so I have added as a student enum here. Similarly, if you have any other entities, then those entity also you need to define here itself. And for each entity there will be a unique reducer. That reducer you need to define here. For example, student, for the student I have defined here, and for the books I have defined here. So this is the specifically this logic actually I have built to maintain properly. This can be done with the different ways too. Similarly, all kind of actions whatever we define here, that uh, we need to mention here. This is the effect collection where the all kind of effects uh, you need to define here. In case if you miss any actions or any reducer in uh, this file, then the function will not work properly. Okay. Now whatever we defined reducer collection and effect collection, we need to now provide in the app config, that is this one where the provide in the provide store, you need to provide the reducer collection, and in the effect store you need to provide the effect collections. So this is in Angular 19, the upgraded version. This is the way we had to define in the reducer collection and the reducer and effects. In the 18 and 17 version, there are different way to define this reducer and effects. Okay, so let's move into the app component, how we can trigger any actions that we will discuss here. Like if I want to get the list of students at that time, so I need to create a object of the store, and I need to dispatch as a one method, action method, that is a get student. Okay, you can see on line number 34, we are invoking in or dispatching the get student. So once we dispatch, it will be stored. It will hit the API and it can get the list of student and store into the store. But once it is stored, you want to get the data from those stores. So in order to get the data from the store, this is the syntax we should use, like store dot select, and where we had to mention the what kind of object you want to receive. Here it is the list of the student. So then in the front end application, uh, you need to subscribe that the student object you using this async and get all the list of student here.